Let us continue in the same point that we remain. And from Joshua, we move to Deborah. Judges 4:4 presented as a second person that was a woman, and is also presented as a prophetess. And Deborah, a prophetess, she judged Israel at that time. So in this case was not only receiving the gift of the spirit of prophecy, but also the leadership gift, because he was also judging and leading the people of God. And we know that the general-in-chief of the armies, of the representatives of the different tribes, he feared to go against the enemy. But he said, if you came with me to Deborah, then I will go. And we know that they received the victory. Let us go short to this part of the history, and we will consider this in Judges chapter 4. One second. It's Judges 4:4. I was looking in Joshua. So we see here the problem with the enemies that they have, and I wanted to read exactly the section with Barak. Verse 8, and Barak said unto her, if thou wilt go with me, then I will go. But if thou wilt not go with me, then I will not go. And she said, I will surely go with thee, notwithstanding the journey that thou takest shall not be for thine honor, for the Lord shall sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. And Deborah rose and went with Barak to Kadesh. And we know the story with Sisera, that was also another woman that killed him, the general-in-chief of the enemy. So this is not the point now. The element important for us in this context is that we find here a declaration of God himself to Deborah as a prophetess. And we find also anonymous prophets. We have many prophets in the Bible without name that only say the prophet or the seer, but we don't find the name. And we have this case short after Deborah in Judges 6, 7, and 8. And says, and it came to pass when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord because of the Midianites, that the Lord sent a prophet. So during this convulsive time of the judges, that different leaders came, that the enemies came because the people of God apostatized, disobeyed the principles of heaven, then again we are conquered from other powers, and they asked the Lord for help. The Lord sent judge, they were delivered, then during a time they remained faithful, then again they fall in apostasy. So through all the book of Judges, we find this balance in the spiritual life of the people of Israel. But now let us go to Hannah in 1 Samuel 2:1. And Hannah was a woman with a curse for the time being. They believed that if a woman is not able to bear a child, was a curse upon this woman. That was believing at this time. And she was very, very sad. And her husband loved her very much, but he needed to have children, so he married with somebody else. And this other woman made even difficult the life of Hannah, because always let her know that she was nobody, because no children were there. She only was the one that had the children. And so this increased even more the suffering of Hannah, until the point that even her husband realized this and told to him, I am not better to you than children. Not for Anna at this time. That was not enough. She needed to feel the maternity in her life. And she was obedient to the Lord. She was humble. She followed the commandments of God and asked to the right person at the right time about what she had in her heart. So she went to the tabernacle and prayed to the Lord. And prayed with so much intensity that even Eli believed that she was drunkard, because she wept a lot, and the high priest that was able to observe the deep suffering of this woman. And then the Lord answered to her. This prayer received an answer, so she became pregnant. And that was not the only child of Hannah. How many children have Hannah after Samuel? Samuel was her firstborn. But how many children she had after? Do you know? So you can find this in the first chapters anyway. So the point of Hannah that is related with the spirit of prophecy is the prayer of praise that he presented to the Lord. And this is a beautiful song that he received through inspiration. And let us consider this shortly, because they are prophetical elements inside. So let us see. One second. Chapter 2. And Hannah prayed and said, my heart rejoices in the Lord. Mine horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth is enlarged over my enemies, because I rejoice in thy salvation. There is no one holy as the Lord, for there is no one beside thee, neither is there any rock like our God. Talk no more so exceeding proudly. Let not arrogancy come out of your mouth. For the Lord is a God of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. We see here the principle of the judgment. So she said, don't think that you can do whatever you want and nothing will happen, because the Lord is doing what? Measuring your acts. The bows of the mighty men are broken, and they that stumbled are girded with strength. They that were full have a hire out of themselves for bread. And they that were hungry ceased, so that the barren had borne 7, and she that had many children is waxed feeble. The Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. The Lord maketh poor and maketh rich. He bringeth low and lifteth up. He raiseth up the poor out of the dust, and lifted up the beggar from the dunghill, to sit them among princes, and to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he that set the world upon them. So again, we see a prophecy related with the future of the people of God. And he will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness, for by strength shall not men prevail. And further on, only until verse 10, I think. Yeah. So these are different prophetical elements in this song of praise that Hannah presented. But no more we find Hannah in the picture until this moment that she came to the tabernacle, give Samuel to the Lord as he had promised, because she said, if you give me a son, I will give it to you. And after, she had more children. But Samuel became a very special person. And Anna received this prophecy also about the future of the people of God in this song that she presented to the Lord. So the spirit of prophecy is not always accompany a person during all his or her life. We have in the case of Miriam also that she had the spirit of prophecy in specific times. We find here in the case of Hannah. And we have other persons that during all their life were with the spirit of prophecy. And they prophesied different things according to the inspiration of the Lord that we find like Isaiah, like Jeremiah, that during all their life they were prophets. But we have also the spirit of prophecy in punctual moments in life. Person that in one specific time the Lord used to pronounce a prophecy and no more after this. This don't mean that the person is disqualified, but was important to the Lord for this time and received the gift of the prophecy, but not more after this. So we have also this variation. Persons that receive the lifelong the gift of the Spirit, and afterwards other people no more. We have the case, for example, of Saul. When Saul was elected as a king, he went with the children of the prophets and he began to prophesy. He received the spirit of prophecy, the King Saul, and we know also his end. So he received it during a period of time of his faithfulness, and afterwards was taken out of him. So the spirit of prophecy is also conditional to the spiritual condition of the people from one side, but also from other side, use the person, never the person use of the Spirit for specific events or circumstances. We see something interesting when a man of God is presented here in 1 Samuel 2:27. And that was before Samuel was called as a prophet. And there came a man of God unto Eli, and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord. And he announced to Eli that he is not correcting his children, and the Lord will take him out of office. He personally, and also his children. But unfortunately, also not this message from the Lord changed the attitude of Eli toward his children. And then again the Lord spoke then to Samuel. And in 1 Samuel 3:1 said that was no open vision at this time. So the people look for a prophet, look for somebody to explain to them the future and also to resolve the present. And then in 1 Samuel 3:20, we find something interesting. This Bible text says, And all Israel from Dan even to Beersheba knew that Samuel was established to be a prophet of the Lord. So Samuel was a young boy when the Lord called him the first time. And we find his calling exactly in chapter 3. Verse 15, And Samuel lay until the morning and opened the doors of the house of the Lord. And Samuel feared to show Eli the vision. Then Eli called Samuel. So what Samuel received was a vision. Yeah? And let us see what the Lord said to Samuel in verse 11. And the Lord said to Samuel, Behold, I will do a thing in Israel, at which both the ears of every one that hear it shall tingle. In that day I will perform against Eli all things which I have spoken concerning his house. When I begin, I will also make an end. Everything that God began came to an end. For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knoweth, because his sons made themselves build in the restrain them not. And therefore I have sworn unto the house of Eli, that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be purged with sacrifice nor offering forever. Not forgiveness anymore. This is the last word of the Lord. No more forgiveness is done. And which was this terrible thing that the ears will be not able to hear? What happened? That was a prophecy. But also God don't say to Samuel what this event will be, that the ears will be not able to carry it out. What was this? What happened after this? Yes. Yes. And that was without word for the people of Israel what this meant. Because when the Ark of the Covenant was taken, what this meant? That the presence of God was not with them, because the Shekinah was upon the Ark of the Covenant. And then heathen pagans took this Ark of the Covenant that nobody beside the people of God was able not even to touch. Because also they needed to carry on the shoulders. They were not able to touch it. Also when the high priest went to the most holy place, he didn't touch it in the ceremony. After they cleaned everything. But in the process was so a holy instrument of the presence of God that only specific persons have the right to touch it. And then this disappeared. So this message was given to Samuel. And he was a young boy, and then he was afraid to say this. And we know that Eli asked him several times to tell him. And then finally Samuel told him in verse 18. And Samuel told him every whit, and hid nothing from him. And he said, it is the Lord. Let him do what seemed him good. And Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and did let no one of his words fall to the ground. And all Israel from Dan and so recognized that the Lord was with him. So this means that from this time until he became a confirmed prophet, didn't receive any vision. He received many messages, because the word says here that, and did let no one of his words fall to the ground, and then say that the people of the Lord knew that he was established as a prophet of the Lord. So he received many messages from this first call until he was established as a prophet, because all the people confirmed that everything that he had said was fulfilled. Therefore, the expression is, no one of his word fall. Everything came to fulfillment. So he was established to be a prophet, and was his lifelong. Samuel had another characteristic. Do you know which characteristic was in his life, besides to be a prophet? Excuse me? Yes, seer and prophet, he was both. And beside this, what more? Judge. He was a judge. He became the judge. He was the last judge of the people of God. Because the people of God asked for a king. The Lord answered to Samuel, okay, they will receive a king, but I am the one chosen the king. And then he shows Samuel that Saul is the person. So Samuel was the last judge. after him and during his life, the monarchy was established in the people of God. So Samuel was a prophet. Samuel was the last judge of the people of God. And he, in his personal life, had also a special characteristic. Which was this? His mother consecrated him to God. What means this consecration? He was what? A Nazarene. He was a Nazarene. Long life. He was consecrated to God completely to his service. And he was a Levite. Yeah? His father was a Levite. Therefore, the mother brought him to the sanctuary. Yeah? And we find this in the first chapter of 1 Samuel, that his father, Elkanah, was a Levite. Therefore, he was also a Levite and had the right to work in the tabernacle at this time. And therefore, he was also able to perform sacrifices. Because if you remember once, Saul called for him, and he delayed to come, and Saul himself performed the sacrifice. And Samuel said, that was not your office. You are not allowed to take this office. And that was a sin. And Saul also don't recognize this mistake. Yeah. So he had different office. And then in 1 Samuel 8 and 9, we find, was the brother already mentioned, that he was also called as a seer. For he that is now called a prophet was before time called a seer. So this friend of Saul, when they went out to look for the mules of his father, told him, we are near to the house of the seer. Maybe we can ask him and he will tell us where are the mules. So Samuel was well known at this time also for personal inquiring. So people came to the seer to ask something specifically. So they came and asked him, where are the mules? And this was the first contact that Samuel had with Saul. But Samuel was not only a Levite, a prophet, a seer, and a judge. He was also a writer. Because according to 1 Chronicles 29:29 says, now the acts of David the king, first and last, behold, they are written in the book of Samuel the seer. So Samuel was a very, a prophet with many gifts. Because he was compiling all the period of the last judge, his own life. Also the life of, part of the life of Saul, because he died before Saul died. And also part of the first period of the life of David, because he also anointed him. So he was the one that anointed the two first kings of Israel, Saul and also David. So he is a very important character in the history of the people of God. Now, Samuel had done something extremely also important that we will consider afterwards. But let us see what happened now with Saul and with this company of prophets. So Samuel was not the only prophet. According to 1 Samuel 10:5 and 6 says, thou shalt meet a company of prophets coming down from the high place with a psaltery and a tabret and a pipe and a harp before them. And they shall prophesy, and the Spirit of the Lord will come upon thee, and thou shalt prophesy with them, and shall be turned into another man. So Samuel was not the only prophet. Were also a company of prophets that coming down from high place. And Samuel announced to Saul that he will meet them, and he will begin also to prophesy together with this company of prophets. And this happened exactly as Samuel had announced it to him. And therefore, after was also Saul well known as the children of the prophets, because he also prophesies with them. And the interesting point is, and shall be turned into another man. So, the persons that receive the spirit of prophecy are converted people, are people with a special connection with God. It's a change of life, and is related here in this Bible text. Patriarchs and prophets comment this and says, as Saul approached them, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him also, and he joined in their song of praise and prophesied with them. He spoke with so great fluency and wisdom. As Saul united with the prophets in their worship, a great change was brought in him by the Holy Spirit. The light of divine purity and holiness shone in upon the darkness of the natural heart. He saw the beauty of holiness. The plan of salvation, which had before seemed dim and uncertain, was opened to his understanding. The Lord endowed him with the courage and wisdom for his high station. He revealed to him the source of strength and grace, and enlightened his understanding as to the divine claims and his own duty. So, through this gift of the Spirit, Saul understood with clarity the plan of salvation that was not clear for him before, according to the testimony. Now he saw completely clear, understood his responsibility, and received also the courage and the wisdom to perform it. So we are until this section here for this first part of the prophets. We have two more sections of it that we will continue right after we give to you the homework. So you need to make a list of the modes of revelation of the spirit of prophecy according to these examples. So according what we have presented from Adam until Saul, you have seen different ways how the Lord have imparted the spirit of prophecy. And you need to make a list. For example, Adam received oral communication, for example. Adam received dreams or vision or also oral communication and so forth. Okay? Yes?
So it's pretty much like the other day, but this time it's just specific to each of the prophets.
Exactly. Yes.
Using the same things as
yes.
2 days ago.
Yeah.
And all we have to do is prophet and then communication.
Yes.
Communication,
Nothing else.
Verse, and that's it.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
And what volume is that for Spirit of Prophecy?
This is the Spirit of Prophecy written by Raquel Orce. Yes. That is the base of all these lessons, is upon this book. So let us go to the next lesson.
Just one quick other question. So the prophets that are listed from Adam until, it was Adam until Samuel, right? Or
Saul, we have done until Saul, but it's included in Samuel, yes.
okay, yes. So sometimes there's more than one mode of transmission for the prophets.
Yes.
Sometimes we might have to list 2 or 3 for one prophet, right?
Yes, this is correct, yes.
Okay.
And this is what we wish that you recognize, because the spirit of prophecy, if you remember our first lesson, is the diversity. So can be given in different ways and in different circumstances according to the situation. So let us go to the school of the prophets, and this is one of the very important institutions that also Samuel was the founder of it. So Samuel was the first that founded the school of the prophets. He was the first. In education, say to us in page 46, these schools were intended to serve as a barrier against the widespreading corruption, to provide for the mental and spiritual welfare of the youth, and to promote the prosperity of the nation by furnishing it with men qualified to act in the fear of God as leaders and counselors. To this end, Samuel gathered companies of young men who were pious, intelligent, and studious. These were called the sons of the prophets. So Samuel is the one that by inspiration of the Lord and according to his command established the first school of the prophets. In 1 Samuel 19:20 saying, Saul sent messengers to take David, and when they saw the company of the prophets prophesying, and Samuel standing as appointed over them. So Samuel was in charge of all these schools, established around and through the territory of the 12 tribes. So Samuel was the one inspired by God to establish this divine institution with the purpose to qualify the nation with the proper leaders and counselors according to the principles of heaven. Let us go to David. In Acts 2:30 to 32, he is presented as a prophet. Therefore David, being a prophet, and knowing that God has sworn him an oath to him, that of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh, he will raise up Christ to sit on his throne. He saying this before speak of the resurrection of Christ, that his soul was not left in hell, neither his flesh did see corruption. Did Jesus had God raised it up, whereof we all are witnesses. So David was not only a king, he was a prophet, and is confirmed from the Bible itself. And was a prophet because he presented a lot of messianical prophecies. When you go through the Psalms of David, you will find even completely Psalms that are messianic prophecies of Jesus himself. And not only this, also David received special instructions from God himself. And we see that David have a special connection with God. We know that generally he have done many mistakes and sins in his life, but generally when he was hiding of Saul, generally he always asked the Lord where to go, where to hide, and what to do. With some exceptions. We know that when he went to the Philistines, and after other enemies came and destroyed all their properties and even take as a slave all his family and relatives, he realized that the mistake was that he moved over there without the consent of God. And this is interesting because he performed adultery and also with cold blood and with all planification bring a person to death that was faithful to him, and that was Uriah. He was not from the people of God, but he was converted to the people of God. He was a Hittite. He was converted to the people of God, become a member of the people of God, married with a member of the people of God, and David killed him. That was a terrible thing. And even after this act, he received inspirations from the Lord. And this is very impressive. Because generally, we have the tendency to have an ideal view of a prophet. And we have already mentioned mistakes that prophets have done. And these don't disqualify the content of the message. This can disqualify the person, but not the message. And this is what many people forget, especially when you read, for example, The White Lie, the book that we will consider in further lessons that present a long list of accusations against Sister White, personal accusations, and also against the writings. And this is very interesting because we study the prophets of the Bible to understand that the prophets are not holy persons. The prophets are human beings. They don't came to a higher level and become more than humans only because they received the spirit of prophecy, because it's not a guarantee of salvation to have the spirit of prophecy. And we have already mentioned many different cases of it. We find also something very interesting about Korah's children. Who was Korah in the Bible? How we know him? Who was Korah? Not the children of Korah. I speak about Korah. Which event in the history of the people of God brings shame upon him? From which tribe was Korah? Somebody say Levite? Yes, he was a Levite. Yeah. He was cousin of Moses. Yeah. He was relative of Moses.
They started the rebellion against Moses. And
Yes.
Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, I believe, are the ones that were swallowed by the earth.
Yes. So Korah was from which tribe?
Levi.
And Dathan and Abiram? Reuben. So why these three persons began this rebellion? There are two main reasons. The problem of Korah was that he was from the Levites. And why he was not? When his father was elder than the father of Aaron, Aaron became the high priest, and not he. The second reason for Dathan and Abiram that were from the tribe of Reuben, why, if Reuben was the firstborn, is Moses the leader of the nation, when from the tribe of Reuben need to be the leader of the nation? And why in one tribe is concentrated the religious power and also the civil power? Because Moses was from the Levite tribe, and Aaron too. So that was a problem of supremacy to obtain power. And that is always the background of a rebellion. A rebellion is based on supremacy and achievement of power. Was not a point related with the doctrine that Moses apostatized. Was not a problem of doctrinal issues. Was a problem of power and supremacy. Now, Korah was destroyed by the Lord, together with Dathan and Abiram. But now we find here Korah's children. And these fulfill the principle of heaven, that father don't pay for the sins of the children, and the children don't pay for the sins of the fathers. So Korah was destroyed by the Lord. That is the only payment for rebellion, destruction, and punishment from the Lord. But now their children that remain in the line of the Levites, because they were Levites, they compose a quite number of psalms that we have in the Bible until now. And the psalms were prayers inspired by God that composed the completely songbook of the people of God at this time. And we find also messianical prophecies in the psalms composed by Korah's children. We have also Asaph and Asaph's children. And we know that they were in the temple service, and especially in the music department and the choir department. And also many psalms of Asaph and his children were also messianical prophecies. So of himself. So again we see that more than one prophet at the same time were in action. And we find Nathan at the same time also as a prophet, contemporaneous to David. So David was declared as a prophet. But when he fell and apostatized from the truth, another prophet was sent to him. And we know what happened. So was even another one, was Gad. Gad was another prophet, also contemporaneous with David. So the sign of the versatility and the diversity of persons with the spirit of prophecy was a sign of the active presence of God among his people. If you compare with the Bible text that we have read when Samuel was called, that say, no open vision was given, and the people were looking for a prophet. So God revealed his displeasure, his rejection of the present situation of his people